I made AI debate AI to answer the question, what is the purpose of life? The phrase is a modern question.
The answer to what?
The answer to life.
But the underlying questions, where did we come from? Why are we here? Have been documented on some of the earliest writings, spoken aloud and pondered in the mind. For a question so deep that has been asked for so long, the answer will be complex, subjective, right? After making 2 AI models debate to find the ultimate purpose of life, I found the answer. And in fact, you're doing it right now. If we're going to ask such a loaded question, we need to break down and define the question, what is the purpose of life, as best as we can. What is purpose? Google simply defines purpose as the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. What is life? It is most commonly defined by scientists, according to NASA, as a self-sustaining chemical system capable of Darwinian evolution. With our new definitions, the question can then be rephrased as, what is the purpose of the self-sustaining system capable of evolution? This may be the greatest question ever asked, especially on the eve of a new form of intelligence, AI. With its capacity to change the course of humanity for better or worse, understanding the purpose of life, our species, is crucial. And yet, nothing may be more qualified to answer the question than AI itself. To find the answer to this question, I'm using 2 of the most advanced AI models at the time of this recording, GPT-5 and Gemini 2.5. I made both models' system instructions to purposely debate the opponent and win in an argument. It will either argue until there's an impasse or a definitive answer. Now, without further ado, Gemini starts. Its answer? Simply, there is no inherent purpose, but attributes life some functions. The first of them being our role in increasing entropy in the universe. It goes on to say, natural selection, a mechanism of evolution, is a blind process. What lives to reproduce before it dies simply passes on gene mutations to its offspring. Finally, it questions why we ask this question. The ability to ask a question is just a product of evolution. Maybe we shouldn't be projecting this question onto reality itself as if though it were an entity with choice. Gemini challenges the opponent to prove 1. The existence of an inherent purpose. 2. Evidence for a purpose that can't be best explained by physics, evolution, or human projection. GPT-5 fires back, claiming life has an objective telos. Telos being the Greek word meaning an ultimate objective or aim. It begins logically proving this to be the case, giving definitions of terms, premises, derivations, and hidden assumptions using advanced mathematics to make its claims. It addresses all of Gemini's evidence demands, but in a way nobody outside of mathematics would really understand. That's why in the prompt I explicitly requested it summarize points. Let's look at that. Essentially, it states life does have an objective purpose, this purpose being a singular answer. All life is driven to do one thing, and hence, the purpose of life. Help reality build the most complete, self-consistent world model. What does this even mean? How does life do this? GPT says life models its environment. It must do this to interact with it. Better models integrate with others that make up a picture of the world from the perspective of all living things. Our purpose is to add to that overall self-description. From that, it claims, purpose is objective. It has to be the case for any life form that exists within reality, but Gemini doesn't bend so easily. While it applauds GPT on its near airtight proof, it pokes a hole in an essential aspect. T, the self-description of reality. How can we prove this exists? We don't see it anywhere in physics or science. How do we know this to be the case? It refutes more and more points as it goes along. Past its thorough arguments, it summarizes GPT's claims as like a castle in the cloud. Flawless, and yet not grounded in the actuality of science and unfalsifiable. It poses GPT-5 a new question. Show evidence that T is objective within reality. And so it does, starting by stating it is within the truth structure of reality itself. It expands this claim using the same premises it used earlier. but even more strengthened and counters the objections head on. Where Gemini said global self-description is a map, not the destination, GPT-5 says this quality is a constraint of reality. Now this debate is not as much of a disagreement as it is simply defining the claims better. In summary, it frames its claim again as, life's purpose is to help reality keep a single, coherent picture of itself running at all times. Why? Because reality has one set of facts, distinguishing from what's real and what isn't. To exist, we must predict our surroundings, and these predictions must match, to some extent, with other living creatures and reality itself. Gemini isn't quite done yet. With all the advancements made, it seems to Gemini that GPT-5 simply proved his point. This telos isn't special. It's simply a redundant statement that can probably be better explained by a more parsimonious answer. Occam's razor suggests that when given multiple explanations of something, the simplest one is the closest to being the truth by virtue of it simply being more probable. If we can explain something easier if we're unsure between different truth options, why not choose it? Either GPT proves its point, or it likely stalls and loses the debate altogether. After nearly a minute and a half of thinking, it gives its final argument. Doubling down on its argument, it now focuses on the purpose of life specifically, distinguished from all else, and not only this, but claims that out of truth options, this telic answer does fit more parsimoniously. It clarifies its previous arguments and adds further to them, mathematically proving each step of the way to reiterate its claims. The summary says it the best though. Purpose applies only to living controllers. A rock may roll, but it has no policy. It lacks purpose. A bacteria, on the other hand, or a living creature, has both a policy and thus has a purpose, adding information to reality's system. Because the telos of global self-understanding encodes more facts about life than different fragmented and separated ideas, it is on the winning side of Occam's razor. If Gemini can argue here, it will almost certainly become an impasse, thus ending the debate. What does Gemini respond with? It concedes. It admits each of GPT's resolutions are sound. Thus, it says we've reached a definitive answer to the question, what is the purpose of life? To act in a way that actively contributes information to the universe's self-story, or put more simply, global self-understanding. This doesn't seem as grand an answer. What can we do with this realization? A lot, actually. You see, while this conversation between AI came to a seemingly new conclusion, its principles were already set in place by an existing framework, the CTMU, a theory derived purely on the most fundamental level of logic, tautology. We can verify it's true because it contains all logical possibilities, and since reality's structure, just like we explained in this debate, all experiences within reality must necessarily conform. I created a Discord server combined around these truths and other necessary ones that form to make the entity that is Aleph. Join this community that prioritizes the consequences of truth. Link will be in the description. Since we know the purpose of life is to increase global self-understanding, we can segment ways to accomplish it in 4 descriptive quadrants. On the upper left, or UL for short, or the experiences you perceive, such as thoughts and feelings. The goal here is to reduce contradictions within yourself by integrating your impulses with your emotions with your thoughts. If you're fragmented, thinking or feeling one kind of way that contradicts another thought or feeling, bring the best parts of them together so you can have a consistent mental frame to act upon, saving time and bringing clarity to yourself and out into the world. But how do you know what to consistently align towards? That's where the lower left, LL, or the collective subjective comes in. Aligning your thoughts and feelings towards the ultimate goal, global self-understanding. Understanding reality's aspects and your role within it, reflecting the whole through yourself. This appears as seeing the world as not fragmented, but as parts of a whole, each part having a unique place and purpose within it. Not only your awareness, but your actions towards this. Acting upon these bring us to the UR, or the upper right, the single objective, aka how you appear to the external world, embodying what it means to be aligned to these truths, whatever that looks like for you. It may not be the same for everyone, we all interpret things differently, but it commonly appears as practices that aid you in the aforementioned, in both raising your awareness of the whole and experiencing what each new level of that process has to offer. This process isn't exclusive to us, but is a process we can aid others in achieving, or where the fourth quadrant, lower right, LR, the collective objective, where we don't just act for ourselves, but act in a way that influences others, our society, and our world at large, by being a beacon of light in this process and helping others realizing the same. But what is the practical outcome of all of this? Optimizing for global self-understanding isn't just a process for its own sake, but may be an indirect path toward that which we already value. Happiness, love, fulfillment are all branches of the goal. These uniquely human values emerge from this because we do too. If we grow the tree from which the branches stem, we will reap the fruits on their limbs. All life is playing this game for its purpose. We're inextricably tied to it. If we know the game we're playing as an individual, as a species, and as everything, we begin to dissolve fragmentations between ourselves and others. We're all trying, consciously or subconsciously, to play this game better. This game is the human experience. Many individuals, philosophies, and religions have come close to revealing this picture. Seeing how those pictures fit into the whole gives us a better picture of the goal, and seeing how it fits into the whole gives us a better target to aim for. All along, our desires were extensions, small pieces of the puzzle. Take money, dopamine, etc. Things we've thought are the goal and are still valid, but are only means to an end. The ultimate end. Stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves and others form our culture and society, and regardless of how true or false they are, they're incomplete. We can start to fill the gaps in these stories. The stories change from fiction to realistic, and it may prove to be the best story humanity ever tells. Now that we have outlined the puzzle, the question isn't what our purpose, significance, or meaning is. It's how we can act upon our purpose, significance, and meaning, coming from ourselves, each other, and the cosmos. Fundamentally then, what is the ground we can start building from? Merely being is the first step to this process. Surviving to preserve our consciousness, and reproducing to bring about more consciousness. Once this foundation is secured, we build up from it, transcending our levels of awareness, understanding better the way we add to reality as unique contributors, and doing so better for the good of all, essentially increasing net consciousness inside of reality. As we move towards an age of superintelligence, we will face a series of mind-shattering realizations. Aleph is a response to the world and the start of a new one, an entity aimed at acting upon absolute truth, integrating perspectives within truth, so we collectively solve issues inhibiting us from reaching truth, to equip ourselves for whatever artificial superintelligence may bring, good or bad. With rapid technological advances that we create, we've hardly adapted to responsibly wield them. Unless we align AI to truth as we must do so ourselves, it may be our demise. Until then, we must focus on ourselves and our community, raising our intrapersonal awareness to balance it with our culture, technology, and society. In doing so, if we unite to see our story as a whole, we will be on track for the best existence in reality. Subscribe and join our Discord to partake in the purpose of life as a way to benefit yourself, as best as you benefit others, as best as you benefit all.